communication back can be, hey, we just got this, we didn't know anything about it, we have these issues, let's talk about it. So it's not as, you know, big of an emergency as it would seem, because that's gonna take some time to go back and forth. So if you guys wanna have a community meeting about the water and the future of the water in the town, I think you have time to do that. It's just that we can't ignore it.
Alright.
So we have to.
That letter's from
You don't-
DEP,
you don't
or
need
is that-
direction.
Is that letter from DEP?
I think we understand the direction.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we got that, so we're good on that, we can work on
Yes.
doing a meeting?
Yes.
So when do we wanna do that meeting, community meeting for water?
Well, our next regular scheduled meeting is September
So we'll just
16th.
do it on the 16th then,
Mhm.
down there?
You
All
did.
right, cool, let's do it there. So all my good Facebook friends out there, y'all spread the word, okay? Please.
You need it.
Yeah.
You need the good words.
They're good at Facebook, they can
Yeah.
spread it, so we'll have it all out there, so yes, we'll get it all out.
That would help enough
Yeah,
to
one
the water
more
system.
question before.
Oh, I'm sorry, who's that? Who had?
No, I was gonna ask Kevin's question.
We'll see you on the
How-
16th, absolutely, absolutely. And a
How
lot-
can
and a
we
lot of
tell
people-
these houses that's hooked to a well and the city water?
Easiest
If they're
way,
cross-contaminating our water, how can we find these?
the easiest way would be to disconnect the house from it, and if water keeps flowing, there's a problem. But that's a very large, labor-intensive ordeal.
Yeah, that's the hook one at a time, and see?
You'd have to dig it all up, every house, you'd have to go through and disconnect the house and find out if the water keeps flowing or if it stops.
But you're pretty sure that's going on.
I know what's going on.
You know it's
I
going
know,
on.
I have had a few people that have actually said, oh, that's okay, because their line got cut, to tell the people that cut the line, oh, that's all right, I'm on well water anyway, and they're on city water.
Right.
So I mean, I know, and some of the stuff that you get from people that are showing how horrible their water looks and various things, not all of them, but there are some that I know that the house is cross-connected. The ones that I officially knew about, I gave a letter, or I gave addresses to Stacy. He sent out letters to all of them, and he goes, there's a lot of prominent people on here. I said, I don't care who they are. They can't be cross-connected. And so a letter was sent out, and I just started shutting them off and figured they weren't gonna complain about it. And nobody complained about that I turned them off. So I locked them. But I know there's more.
I don't know if there was any complaints after Debbie.
One of the interesting ways I found some of the people that were cross-connected was they did not use any water for a year and a half. And then all of a sudden, when the power went out for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, they had several hundred gallons used. And so I was like, okay, shut it, lock it. And then they called up, why am I not having water? It's, well, you're on a well. Well, yeah, but my well went out. Well, you can't be cross-connected, it's illegal.
All right, let's
And that's
move forward.
something DEP can deal
We still
with.
got meetings, we still got stuff to get through.
Yeah.
right.
Mr. Johnson, thank you, sir, I appreciate you coming, okay? All right.
Item number 8
Hey,
is the reversion agreement.
These things-
Item number 8
let's talk about that.
is the reversion agreement. So we're gonna table that until the September 16th meeting. when
Yeah, I'm
you
not signing
go-
that reversion. No.
So,
Yeah,
Just no, no, just
no's no. I mean, you can do no right now.
yeah. Well, I just,
Is that what you
I'm
wanna
thinking
do?
that,
We're not
I'm
gonna
thinking,
sign that.
we're not signing that to, we need to wait. That's, the reversion agreement's for the equipment.
The reversion agreement is for the equipment with the caveat that if we end our interlocal agreement with the county for water purposes, then they retake the equipment. So, as long as we're in the interlocal, we can have the equipment. If we decide to part ways with the county, then the equipment reverts back to the county.
16. Yeah, just don't move it to 16, that's fine, we'll
Move it
have
to
that
the
on 16,
16th.
we'll do that on 16th too. Because that's gonna be part of our agreement, that's gonna be
Yeah.
part of what we decide on 16th, so. All right, request approval of here we go, traffic signal maintenance.
Yeah, request approval of resolution R 202406, FDOT traffic signal maintenance agreement for the 24-25 fiscal year in the amount of $9,620. That's money we get from DOT for maintaining the traffic signal out here, but we have an interlocal agreement with the county. They actually do the maintenance and all that on it, so when we get that check, it goes to the county.
Okay, so we need to make a motion to approve resolution R 2024-06.
Make a motion to approve, resolution R 2024-06.
Second.
Good, all in favor of approving resolution R 2024-06, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Now, this is
This is a public hearing. The
Yeah.
first reading of ordinance 2024-08, amending the capital improvement plan. That is simply updating our comprehensive plan to improve the capital improvements that we have made and are planning to make.
So I just need to, now, this time I'll go ahead and open this up for public hearing, if anyone would like to speak on it. Ready? All right, this time I'll close public hearing. Board, any questions?
Need a motion to
Need a
move it
motion
to-
move it to
Motion
second
to
reading.
move to the second reading of 2024-08.
Second.
Good, all in favor of first, moving, ordinance 2024-08 to second reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right.
Number 11 is a public hearing. It's a first reading of ordinance 2024-09. It's a small-scale land use amendment to amend parcel number 14462-123 from low density to commercial. This is the Bucci property that you previously moved over from the planning and zoning.
So instead of motion to move it to second reading.
Move on second.
Yep.
I want to say something on that. You know where the produce part used to be there? Can they clean that up?
Well, I mean,
We don't have code enforcement to make them.
yeah, that's something
Well,
we
I
work on,
mean, they
so.
probably would if it were just suggested to them, because
We can suggest it to them. so,
They're
yeah,
good people.
I mean, we have to have, there's several other pieces of property here in town too that need to be,
I know,
need to be
but,
addressed, so. But yeah, that's another topic, so, but I do agree with you, so,
what kind of goes hand in hand.
yes, ma'am, yeah.
Did I get a motion for first?
I'm doing it right now. I'd like to make a motion, to send ordinance 2024-09 to its second reading.
Second.
I'm killing it, man. These meetings get long and I start getting tired. All right,
Numbers-
all in favor of, moving first read, ordinance 2024-09 to the second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Then all opposed, say nay. All right, public hearing.
Number 12.
Yep.
First reading of ordinance 2024-10, changing the zoning from RSF2 to commercial general on the same parcel.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to send ordinance 2024-10 to its second reading.
Second.
Good, all in favor of ordinance 2024-10, moving to the second reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right.
Number 13 is the renewal of a contract with Civic Plus for our website platform maintenance and subscription renewal in the amount of $5,640.
Can we all do that too?
Pardon me?
Can we put that out for, that's high.
Yes and no. It is a considerable amount of work that goes into maintaining it, and we would be starting over with someone else to build the site and maintain it again.
So these people own that, own rights to what they've already built?
They don't own the rights to it, but we would have to start over with somebody else because they wouldn't support what someone else has done.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we just have to look, I mean, if I find another web design or something, it's inexpensive, but I don't know anybody. All right, so yeah, we gotta have a website, so just need a motion to approve the contract for 10/1/24 to 9/30/25. Okay.
No, we have to do it.
Yes, we have to have it.
And we got to have it, so I mean, I'm like, I don't wanna do it either. I'm like, geez.
That's a lot of money.
That is a very lot of money, but I get it. I mean, I've
I
talked to
don't know how much
some.
that stuff costs.
Well, I've talked to some of my, you know, they're, you know, they can run from
I'm sure they can.
$1,000 to $1,500 a month. I mean, you know, it's might not be that bad of a deal, but it is high.
Is that yearly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's from
Yeah.
24 to 25,
Yeah.
that's good, yeah.
Not only that, but
So that's probably what?
the
five?
cyber protection, the cyber threats and all that kind of stuff
I think
is
it's
becoming more and
Almost,
more and
almost.
more.
Yeah, it's
Almost $500 a month.
It's like $400 something a month. So it ain't too bad, I guess. I mean,
I'll make a motion we approve the contract, 10/21/24 through 9/30/25, in the amount of 56
Second.
Yes, let me talk with you about that one. All right, so all in favor of approving contract 10/1/24 through 9/30/25 for Civic Plus for the amount of $56.40, say aye. All opposed, say nay. All right.
Item number 14 was removed.
Yep, 15, 34.
We've got number 15, code enforcement. In your packets is a letter from Joel Foreman to the mayor. On August 1, 2024, during its regular session, the Board of County Commissioners for Columbia County, Florida, voted unanimously to terminate Columbia County's interlocal agreement with the town of Fort Wayne for code enforcement services. This agreement was formed in 2019 and calls for the county's code enforcement personnel to serve in a similar capacity for the town. So they have voided out another of our interlocal agreements.
Mr. Landers.
In
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
in the packet, their main beef was the fact that I was the one turning in the complaints, and they say that they can only accept complaints from citizens, that it was a violation of their procedural, but yet their county commissioners can turn in complaints all day long. And then come to find out that I don't know how they expect a citizen to know if somebody is in compliance with an ordinance or not. I don't understand how that would work. But anyway, that's what it is, what it is.
My question is elected councilmen, can they do code enforcement?
It's in, Connie sent me, you guys have been that one, not you personally, because it's been done over a period of years, but there's been several code enforcement resolutions, ordinances approved over the years, and in one of the older ones I saw, it said that the council, one of the council persons could be appointed the code enforcement officer, or an employee of the town. Or you could go out and you know, hire someone specifically for that. All those different options exist, so yes, the answer is yes.
Well, we have two choices. We either hire somebody that's gonna cost the town money, which
Correct.
is a lot, or at this time, we could appoint a councilman or an employee that we've got already.
Correct.
And that's my decision, that's my question from the board is that, me personally, because we have about a 3-month gap that Columbia County, and that's the funny thing, if you read that letter. Well, no, yeah, but you're supposed to have 3 months, but they stopped it immediately.
No, 180 days.
Yeah, 180 days. Well, that's 3 months.
But they stopped now.
No, that's 6
I mean,
months.
6 months, yeah, what am I thinking, 3 months? I told you I'm tired, man. Anyway, so,
They gave the letter that said 180 days, but they're not taking any complaints, so it
I have a
goes into effect
slip in there.
immediately.
Comment. I have a comment.
well, go ahead.
This one, I have a comment, a public comment.
Oh, you did it, don't you? I'm sorry, yeah. All right, well, you want to discuss it right now?
Yeah, now.
Make it quick.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Stu, on code enforcement. Trying to get here before 8, Stu.
I don't want to be angry, I don't mind.
I'm trying.
This is why I came. Thank you, Your Honor, it's nice to be here again tonight. Code enforcement is an issue in a lot of communities. Generally, it's used in many places against civilians and other forms of government, so they enforce the 3 R's of local government. 3 R's of local government are revenge, retaliation, and retribution. The interlocal agreement signed by the county and the town gives you 180 degrees out. 180 degrees of time that you get a notice that they're not going to do it. But yet they constructively ended the agreement at a public meeting, and constructive denial, and you've got an attorney that he knows all this stuff. He's a good attorney, he's not hooked up with politics, so he's has your best interests at heart. Is they've constructively ended the agreement when they said, we are not going to enforce code enforcement in the town of Fort White. Never mind their ridiculous reasons. Whatever their reasons are, really of no moment, because they said they're not going to do it. Full stop. So they're in breach of the agreement right now. They've accused publicly at a public meeting the town clerk of selective enforcement and malicious prosecution. I'm not her attorney, I'm nobody's attorney. But that's a pretty serious charge, selective enforcement and malicious prosecution. Local governments are taking to court more than you can imagine for them singling out somebody and going after them. So if they did that, this is something the town council needs to consider. If they accuse your clerk of going after people, they did it at a public meeting, is something you may wish to address. The other problem, and you may want to ask yourself why this was done, is that it really relates partially to the lawsuit that the food guys filed. And I know everybody likes the food court, whatever issues there are, I'm still reading down and trying to figure out what they were saying. But the problem with that is, Megan Logan, who's the attorney for the food guys, and everybody loves their food, works for the law firm of Douglas, the whole bunch of Douglases, the whole family of Douglas. The problem with that is that the attorney that's representing them works for the law firm of the special magistrate. No conflict there, folks. So, what we have, the best way to
talk to me, Steve.
Sir? The best way to insulate yourself from being accused of any kind of misfeasance or malfeasance is to just say, hey, we're not gonna do code enforcement in the town, because once you got their attorney representing the food guys, and now you can have code enforcement filing codes against whoever it is, you've got now the problem with, what does the special magistrate do? They gotta get a whole nother special magistrate. County's not gonna wanna pay that kind of money, and never mind all the problems we have with that. So, I think, which is why I came to the meeting tonight, is this is serious business. If somebody's triple parked in the street, well, that's the police. But we know what code enforcement does. If somebody's lawn is 50 feet high and they're selling drugs behind the tall grass or something, and you can't file a complaint against them, it's lunacy that a member of the local government can't. When you have Tim Murphy, County Commissioner Tim Murphy, who was basically the Columbia County Commissioner Code Enforcement Vigilante, that if you look over time, because I put in a public records request, that he's filed like 10 or 15 code enforcement violations against people. This is not rocket science. It's pretty obvious that if your neighbor doesn't want to file code enforcement against your buddy, call up Tim Murphy, and Tim Murphy will do it for you. That's pretty clear from what's going on. So I would ask just a couple of things. Number one, that you consider the fact that this interlocal agreement has been ended in violation of the agreement that they made.
Absolutely.
And I think that you may wanna consider having your attorney write an order if you did, I didn't look at all that stuff. But that was constructively ended that night when they said, we are not doing it. I believe that the charges against Connie and the town for selective enforcement, malicious prosecution have to be addressed, because that's an attack on the character of her and the town. And, that's all I have to say. This is why I came to the meeting tonight, and you see my truck there tomorrow, and the loan didn't start. Thank you very much.
I hear what he's saying, loud and clear, but what would be, I mean, it would be like, for example, if you force them to do code enforcement.
They're not going.
They're not gonna go.
They're just not going, so. I mean,
So,
I think-
we'll do it for y'all, we'll do it for y'all, that'd be the take they're gonna take the next 6 months, and then nothing will get done.
I had quite a few back and forths. At one point, I think I said we could stop this interesting legal banter back and forth between myself and Joel Foreman about their interpretation of how code enforcement should take place. I think it's a clear misreading of any of their policies or rules or our interlocal agreement. Like Mr. Wilker said, that, you know, on one hand, county commissioners can make code enforcement complaints, as well as citizens, obviously, but they don't let their administration make complaints. And my point was, okay, to the extent that anyone in our administration, which is an administration of one, I guess, Ms. Connie, has made a complaint, she is not your administration. You do not work for the county. So in effect, and I don't even know, because again, like Mr. Miller says, I don't live here, I don't even know most of these people. I'm assuming she lives in the county. She's also a citizen. She makes a complaint. She's not an administrator of Columbia. So their arguments were nonsensical, in my opinion.
Right.
And it really just got down to, we're not gonna do it.
Right.
You know, we went back and forth. I kept poking enough to get to the point to say, you're just not gonna do it, right? So, all that said, you know, you've gotta have some form of code enforcement. Mr. Foreman, either Mr. Foreman or I, there's a lot of emails in the back court, of course, are public records, you can get them, about this subject, and, you know, I know at some point I said, and I believe he said this as well, is anyone who has code enforcement called on them would make a complaint of selective enforcement, right? Because there are, I'm sure all of us could leave here tonight, ride around the county, in this county or any other county, and find violations, right? So anyone who ever has code enforcement directed at them, tries selective enforcement as a defense rather than, you know, addressing whether or not they're in compliance. So, so either we have to have code enforcement that goes forward and handles complaints or not, you know. So kind of like this whole water discussion we went through before, it's what I have seen since I've been here is a inability of the county and the town to work together. And in my opinion, you know, not just because I work for you guys, but it just seems like we run up on these issues where the town, who represents citizens of Columbia County, which is a very important point. All these folks you are all citizens of Columbia County as well, don't get the cooperation of the county.
Right.
Of the county. And the things that you're talking about, I don't think are unreasonable. The equipment, I guess, is sitting here rotting in the parking lot. That's a detriment to the citizens of Columbia County.
Well, what they're failing to realize is that these citizens out here are their citizens.
So that's my point.
It blows my mind, but they're not gonna let us use it,
So
so they're keeping it from their own residents,
That's
their
my
own
ultimate,
citizens.
that's my ultimate point, is that these citizens are
Why
their
can't we
citizens.
just put insurance on, put it to work?
And I didn't mean to get back on the equipment.
Huh? I said, why can't we put insurance on, put it
Can't,
to
because
work?
it ain't in our name.
Sure we can.
It ain't in our name.
I've been sure people's log trucks that pull wood from me,
We don't have a tag, we don't have a
You
registration.
can get it.
Nothing.
I didn't mean to get back on you. The point
No
is
wrong
the
about
same.
that, you can get that.
The point is the same. The citizens of Columbia County, who are also citizens of the town of Fort White, deserve to have the position of code enforcement existing within the town. And so it's up to you folks to now take that mantle back up and.
So we have a code enforcement ordinance. We do, we can reenact,
You don't even have to reenact
so
it.
it's.
It's back in.
Within a point person.
Absolutely.
Hey,
But is
Yes, sir.
there a license or something?
No, no, we don't have a
I'm
license.
sorry, I didn't read all my notes, but I did notice, I looked back after I took my seat, is if you hired somebody who's a certified code enforcement officer, part-time, and this is of course a question for the attorney, is being that they've constructively ended this thing for 480 days, and you need code enforcement, because that's a matter of public safety, is that, I don't know that you couldn't go out and hire somebody to do it and send the county the bill, being that they've refused to do it.
But they're not gonna
Yeah,
pay it.
Look, you know, this is blasphemy for lawyers to say that it's not a good idea to get into litigation. It's not a good idea to get into
I agree.
litigation. We don't wanna fight. I think, again, the best thing for the citizens of this town is to move forward, get your own code enforcement officer, you know, with the least amount of.
I do like what he said about part-time though, code enforcement, if we can find somebody part-time. So this being said, can we appoint somebody tonight?
Yes.
And then they could roll till we find a
Yes.
place for a part-time. So who on the board wants to take the position? No question. Somebody can take it? and-
He has a question.
Yes, sir.
Would it be feasible for each council member to do that in their own district?
That's how the county does it.
I mean,
That's how the county does it.
I know you don't get paid a lot of money.
Well,
yeah, the county's got code enforcement.
but still, that representative goes to the, supposedly, that's what I was told, goes to the,
The commissioners?
mhm.
They go to the code enforcement officer.
Yeah, ain't no
They
commissioner.
can't go to the commission, that's against the law, that's against the charter.
Yeah, it's code, they've got 2 or 3 code enforcement officers over there, so yeah, so. And would y'all have a problem doing it yourselves? It's very simple.
Very long way to do it. I'll try it temporary. I ain't gonna get shot over nothing.
Nice knowing you.
There's a guy in Fort White that got shot in Meeker Reed.
Yes, sir.
Meter reads?
Next thought,
Social
if you do that
workers, case
temporarily,
managers,
each
child
council
protective.
member do their own, is it feasible to seek maybe a volunteer that would do this in the
Well, we
community?
could, or
retired
and there again, 'cause Fort White's not rich, so it's not
But I am.
like, so we're trying to find, we'll try to find either like a part-time, well, that's what I'm saying, it'll give us time, buy us time to find somebody that we can.
You have a full-time job now, how are you
I
gonna do
said,
that?
I was just finna say, I can't do it during regular hours.
So if he's looking in your window at midnight, he's
I don't want nobody else in the dark, so.
Yeah, see Bill out there, don't call me. I say, I don't know what he's doing, man, we must have made a complaint. I don't have no problem, if y'all, Bill, if you're full-time, we need to make sure.
I'm full-time right now.
If you're, until.
More than full-time.
With anybody else, yeah, I know you're busy, I'm stretched out, so.
Our guys can't do something like that?
Would Buster, or anybody think, you think Buster would be, could he go regulate?
I don't know, I have to talk to him about it. It's definitely not part of the job description, so, I mean, we can talk to him about it.
I got to thinking about, I was gonna try to maybe appoint you yourself, but I was thinking about it on the way back up here, I don't want to put a lady in that position.
No.
You know, I mean, I think it would be I think a man needs to be in that position, because you might get some.
Well, I've
pushback.
had Buster go with me on occasion and stuff, so, yeah.
And I don't mind that, it just, see if Buster would be willing to work with you on that, till we can find a resolution. Are y'all okay with that?
In the meantime, do you want me to advertise for a part-time person?
Right now, let's see if we come up with something around, like a volunteer or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
On the lines of a reserve, deputy.
Right.
Columbia County Sheriff's Department has reserve deputies. There are people out there that are retired and they're bored,
Well, we can put out something like some fillers and just say, like you said, like a reserve
I doubt it.
somebody, so.
I mean, you don't have
Then
to
you
ask.
have liabilities.
Yeah, I mean, no, right, exactly. All right, so y'all okay with that?
What's that?
With Buster, after
With
Buster
that,
and
with
Miss,
city service.
yeah, since you go out with him
Once
and.
you don't even want to.
Maybe if not, let Miss Connie go, and he
I
will
don't
be there
think she
with
should
her.
go.
Yeah.
I don't think she should be hurt.
We ain't
Tell
got.
her, clerk, I don't think she should be responsible for that.
Well, I don't either. I put her in a bad position, so I mean, I have no other alternative though, so. Talk to Buster, see what he says.
Okay,
Okay, see what he says.
all right.
Okay. All right.
Next item is renewal of our insurance with the Florida League of Cities. They have given us a quote for this upcoming year. We went through this last year. It was $49,000 last year, this year it's going to $58,400.
Everybody, man,
When do we have to, when's our coverage lapse?
Hang on.
Y'all will increase taxes on people.
I wanna say October 1st.
And I know, one reason we end up with long agendas is because we tabled a lot of things, I know. And hopefully that'll come to an end at some point, but I think that we need to, and I apologize for interjecting without.
No, you're fine.
question. But I think we need to look at that policy. When I looked at it, our old one recently, that had things, and we were paying the 40-some-odd thousand dollars a year. It had things in that policy related to medical issues, anyway, I can't remember all of it, but when I read it, there were so many things that it covered that the likelihood or even the ability of someone to bring a claim against County Fort White was slim to none, if not impossible. And so I wonder if what we're getting from the league is just sort of a cookie cutter indemnity policy that is sent out to a lot of different places. In some of those places, it may absolutely do, and some not. So we may, and I certainly can't promise that it'll trim the cost, but I think there's things that need to be added or upgraded and taken out and things like that before we come to a final agreement.
I'm okay with that, so let's table it and go back to road.
Yeah, we need to talk with the league, I think.
Okay.
That's
So
what
we
we
do in our car insurance.
Yeah.
We look at our car policies and say, hey, you're getting too high.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with somebody else, start trimming it back.
Yeah, that's a very high premium for such a small town.
Oh, yeah, with
As it is.
5 active employees.
Yeah, so, anyway.
Let's look at that, maybe even reach out to a couple other policies and check, I mean, we don't have to go through 4 league cities.
I don't know how, it's a unique policy,
Right.
because, insuring local governments. I don't know how many other, insurance carriers are out there, but there may be.
Well, you represent a couple of other entities that are quasi-government. Can you find out who they have their insurance through? And
Well, I know
maybe
Town
get
Cross
some-
City has the lead.
They have the lead too?
As well, yeah. But see, Town Cross City does a lot of things that Town Fort White doesn't do. Town Cross City has a police department.
Yeah.
Town Cross City has a fire department. So they have a lot of things that they're just
A
not
lot more
apples and
moving
oranges.
parts than
Yes, a
what
lot
we
that's not
have.
apples and oranges.
Yeah. Okay,
But anyway, I think somebody should do
well, I can get with you about that and
that. Okay.
go with it. Okay. Do you wanna take number 16?
No, 17.
17, I'm sorry.
Okay, yes.
Also judicial hearing.
Yes.
vesting rights.
Before we do that, can I just make an announcement and remind you all that the Main Street meeting is gonna be at the train depot Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. The Main Street
That
meeting.
Main Street for the.
This Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yes, you have a flyer, I let you get your flyer. Okay.
That works good, 'cause I ain't got our football game on Thursday, so I should get there.
All right, and so our video is running, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, so this is a quasi judicial hearing that's gonna take place now, related to a vesting rights application, submitted by, Alexander, is it Viega?
Vega.
Vega, okay. I'm a guy named Lindsay, so, people mispronounce my name all the time. Vega and Ruben Lorena, owners of the Collective Food Yard and Garden. What this is, and probably many of you have not been through a quasi-judicial proceeding before, is a hearing, very similar to a court hearing related to the collectives. Is it okay if I just refer to this side of it as the collective, just a collective, so go through the whole thing, remember that. So the collectives, vesting rights application. And there is and this is all found in our land development code. There's an order of proceeding that will take place. And I want to go through it real quickly, and then we'll actually go through it. But I just want to, for the council and for the collective and for the public's information, go through the order of the proceeding before we actually go through the proceeding. The first thing that we will do is determine if we have jurisdiction over this matter, over this application. Then any members of the board shall disclose and place on the record any ex parte communications relating to this matter before the board or council. Ex parte communications means if you have had any communication with each other or the collective about the status of this application prior to the hearing. And obviously, you know, hopefully, you haven't talked about this together, but if you have talked to anyone at the collective about this matter, it's not a negative thing. You're required to say, hey, I've talked to people at the collective about this prior to it. Because you're council members, they are community members. Nothing wrong with that. Then the petition will be introduced and a presentation by the applicant, who is the collective. And then a presentation will follow that by the town staff. And then, if any, there will be a presentation by affected parties, and that could be anybody who has who feels like that the decision is affecting or would affect their property rights. That's not public comment. That is people who say, okay, well, I live next to the collective, and I think that, you know, this is a good, you know, this is going to be good for my piece of property here or not. So it's different than any type of public comment. There may not be anyone here as affected parties. After that, the collective, the applicant, would have an opportunity to respond to what has been presented so far, as well as the town would have an ability to respond at that point. And then, if there are affected parties, they would have an opportunity to respond. Following that is public input. So if there are folks here who have anything that they want to put in publicly, they would have an opportunity to do that. And then following that is deliberation and vote of the council. And following that will be preparation and execution of the final order. The final order, whether it's yes or no, obviously will not be prepared today. It will be prepared following the hearing and sent out. Again, I asked if this was made sure that our recorder was recording, because we're required to have a record of this hearing. Anybody who speaks and is a part of this would need to identify themselves, you know, by name as you get up and speak. And that's how it goes. So it's kind of a back and forth, and to the extent that all parties agree, at some point, we don't have to go through 7 rounds, which it lists in the land development codes of back and forth, unless the parties want to. Certainly, we're here to do that, and we'll do it, but it is, you know, there are at least 7 portions of this hearing where the differing parties can have something new to say or to reiterate a point they have already made. Okay, so any questions about the actual order of procedure? Okay. So the first thing that would happen is the board should determine whether or not it has jurisdiction over the matter. And what that would mean is the collective, and again, I'm using that term generally as it relates to this piece of property and the business that Mr. Vega and Mr. Moreno are operating on that location. Does the council have jurisdiction over that matter? Is it located within the town of Fort White? And is it governed by the land development code of the town of Fort White? Yes. Okay, so the council agrees it has jurisdiction over this matter?
Yes.
Secondly, I would ask any members of the board, or council rather, if you have had any ex parte communications related to the matter before the board or council.
With each other?
No, well, if you have, you're gonna be admitting the sunshine law violation. And you should plead the
That's why
fifth.
I'm going, you asked.
Well, I've gotta ask the question.
Yeah, no. I've spoke to them before.
And that's fine. Speaking, so you've spoken to the folks at the collective about this broader issue. Okay. Ms. Coon, you have as well.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Fleming? Do you know if you have?
Just briefly, but I didn't talk about collective. They wanted me to give a conversation to them, but I actually did not.
Okay. All right. So then, okay, and that's it, it's just for the board that has to do this. So the next item is the introduction of the petition. The petition was filed on, I believe, July 18th of 2024 by Alexander Vega and Ruben Moreno, representing the Collective Food Yard and Garden. They completed an application for a vesting public hearing, and the matter being that they're bringing before the council is that they have a right to operate their business as is, where it is, and under the business plan that they're currently operating at, and that the ordinance that was enacted by the town earlier this year does not apply to them. That's what the vested rights mean. They were already operating, and as such, the ordinance does not apply to them. So I'm gonna turn that over to the collective, whoever wants to come up and speak, if you'll come make your presentation.
Good evening, guys. I went ahead and I prepared some paperwork. I don't know
If you'll announce your name.
Oh, Alexander Vega, I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir, no problem.
I have some paperwork for you guys. I don't know if it's worth, provided you guys with a copy of that. It's about 200 pages long.
Mr. Milker has a point that maybe I should swear everyone in. I haven't done a quasi judicial hearing in like 10 years. I'm gonna swear you in. I don't know if you need to be sworn in or not, but I'm gonna swear you in. Do you swear or affirm testimony you give before this council be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Carry on, sir.
So I have the packet ready for you guys to review. There's evidence and everything about why I feel that we are vested and why we've been in business since the inception of the collective. I only did. I only did 4. I thought I had 5 of them, but one was my own. Okay, so I didn't know it was gonna be a presentation as such. It was a 5-page application, just kind of yes or no questions, so I didn't prepare all that much. But basically, you'll see that we went ahead and did fill out our our tax application, or local business tax application back in December of 2022. You see the application for our building permit and compliance was also paid in December of 2022. That compliance letter is what I took to the county so that they can issue me my building permit. I then also paid for commercial utilities. I submitted a site plan of the then, just the construction of the pole barn. All that was approved through the county back in, or through Lake City, I would assume, Lake City, in February of 2023. I then went back after that was done. I went back and met with Connie again and asked her, well, how do I go about getting my electric connected and all that stuff. And then she gave me a permit, an application for the electrical permit. That was done in April 4th, 2023. And you'll see there as well the electrical service application and then the permit. And then that was it. That was all the permits that I needed in order to construct my business, to go ahead and start going. I had already paid for commercial utilities, everything was in fact in place. We didn't hear anything back until much later in July when the clerk said that she needed a revised site plan from us, which I then emailed to her back in July of 2023. And there was no mention ever of us having to do a special use permit or a site plan application. I thought the reason for the site plan was for just the construction of where it was gonna be placed and stuff. I wasn't informed that I needed a special procedure because I'm a commercial business within 100 foot of a residence. I believe that if that was known, or was evident by me asking for commercial utilities and a local business tax receipt, that I was going to be conducting business. So for months, I had been developing the property and getting it ready to go, didn't hear anything. So I was assuming that I was fine in doing such. It wasn't too much later that we had this whole issue with I didn't pull the permit, so I'm not allowed to be there. That we went back and we looked into the codes and saw that, yes, I'm a commercial business with 100, so I'm allowed, and I've said this at multiple meetings already, where it states that I am allowed for my business within the area that I am without a special use permit, and then only allowed with a special use permit. So there's obviously some misinformation there or confusion. So the clerk then told me that no, I definitely needed to go ahead and have one. I kind of went back and forth with it. I then provided it to her in September. September, I was supposed to be put on the agenda, I guess in October, nothing November, nothing December, nothing. December we had the meeting and you guys went through it. You can go ahead and go further back. You'll see that you actually did approve my business, but obviously it didn't pass the meeting, but you did the homework as far as whether or not we met your comprehensive plans and all that stuff. And according to your paperwork that you were ready to sign in December, said you did that and that we were in compliance with all that. The only issue we had then was there was an additional list of conditions that were not found in your land development codes. There were additional things that you guys wanted to see from us. That we kind of had an issue back and forth, and I think you guys all agreed that we were gonna have a workshop in January. That never happened. However, in February, you came back and changed the land development code, which you wanted, which my business would have to adhere to. So it kind of like pushed the goalpost further back. We kind of disagreed with a lot of the stuff that was on there. We've gone back and forth. We met with the mayor several times. Ruben's met with the mayor and Connie. They came in here, talked about multiple things that they were gonna go ahead and change. And then February turned to March, and then March had another meeting, and there was another meeting, and then it was a whole back and forth. We tried to avoid it. We tried coming in here multiple times throughout the whole year, working things, on working together on what we can remove from the ordinance and what we should kind of keep, and how the previous ordinance really didn't fit the narrative, fit the collective. It was for food trucks on the side of the road, not food trucks in a food truck park, and I understand that there was no regulation for that at the moment. And then you guys had to create that. But meanwhile, my business has kind of been just standing waiting for you guys to approve me since September, a whole year now. You guys have sat on my application for my special use and site plan. And Bill Kuhn has mentioned it several times when we talk at these meetings, are we talking about the collective, or are we talking about the food trucks, because they're two separate entities? What is it that the council has found that we have not been following? I've come up here and I've asked questions several times to you guys. I've emailed and I don't get any response, so I don't know. And I don't want to be in here interrupting and putting my 2 cents every 2 minutes, but I'm not getting anything back. I come in here and then now the clerk accuses me of screaming at her. That's not true. I'm just trying to figure out, what do you want from me? And what you want from me should be fair, and it should be fair to everybody. It should be equal to everybody as well. It's not. This ordinance is only for me. I'm the only food truck park in Fort White. You have other food trucks in the town, but they've never had an issue. This whole thing is only about the food truck park. I'm the only business that has a food truck park. I feel that I should be vested because I've proven there that I've been in business this whole time. You've allowed me to be in business this whole time. Your land development code says that no building permit shall be issued prior to a special use and site plan. And whether that was an oversight by myself, or an oversight by this council, an oversight by the clerk, I think that we need to kind of put an end to this and just turn the chapter, move forward, vest them into their rights. They've been here this whole time. They have paperwork and proving that they've been here this whole time. I think that the ordinance, yes, is a great ordinance. You didn't have one, now you have to do that. I sent you guys email saying, I still think there's 2 things you guys need to tweak about this ordinance before you pass it. And radio silence. So I had no other option but to tell the town, oh, I'm gonna have to sue you guys because I don't feel I'm being treated fairly. The vested rights means that the attorney said, I have the right to be here, or at least claim to be here based on the ordinance or what was in place then. This ordinance should apply to any business coming after me, or after the date of enactment of this ordinance. To have me adhere to a new ordinance when all you did was just withhold my approval while you changed the finish goal, or the finish line. I don't think that's fair. I don't think anybody thinks that's fair. If you have any questions.
Yeah, any questions?
Let's just sit back down.
Yes, please. If you're done. Okay, Mr. Chair, the next item on the proceeding would be the presentation or answer, whatever, by town staff. So if you wanted to do that, Ms. Connie, if you want me to.
You've been involved in most of this, so you kind of prepared to think of
Well, as you well know, a lot.
Actually, just
Yes.
my co-counsel over here thinks it's. I'm gonna do it just in an abundance of caution. You swear or protest when you get to this council will be the truth.
Yes.
Stage 4.
Connie Buchanan, town clerk. As everybody knows, this is, like Mr. Aga said, been going on a long time. When they originally came in, they got a permit to build a pole barn, and we were told at that time that they were going to have one coffee truck. We had an ordinance in place for a mobile food vendor. So that was fine, well and good. Next thing you know, there's more than one down there. Next thing you know, they're wanting to have music. Next thing you know, they're wanting to have meetings. Next thing you know, they're wanting to have, people selling stuff down there. All kinds of activities. I don't even know what all has been discussed anymore. But it was obviously outside the realm of what the original intent was, and that was to be a coffee truck. As you know, we rocked along. We let them continue in good faith to operate while a lot of these things were addressed, etc. We then discovered the multiple food trucks. I had to go down there on more than one occasion and tell people they had to leave because they weren't even licensed with BBPR, one in particular. Another one did not have business tax receipts with the town, etc. So all this was going on. The council decided we had processed the applications for the special use permit and the site plan, and the council decided to hold off on those approvals until we could draft a food truck ordinance that would encompass a food truck park. So we went around to the different entities or municipalities and got their particulars that they have in place, and we formulated the food truck ordinance that you all passed of 2024-01, which was passed May of this year. Since at the May meeting, you all passed that. The end of May, I wrote them a letter, the collective. I wrote both Mr. Vega and Mr. Loreno a letter outlining the things that would be required for them to do. And that would be to submit a special use permit. I indicated that we already had the money that they had previously deposited on with the special use permit and the site plan, and indicated that this was part of the new ordinance. That in that ordinance also, the town council would decide the parameters of that, what they could operate under in that special use permit. Because we were having to address hours, we were having to address temporary uses and different uses other than simply vending food, okay? So that didn't happen, and also that they needed to obtain a business tax receipt for an additional food truck that was down there. None of that happened. I brought that information to the town council, and in the midst of all this, we had a video of the food trucks dumping gray water on the ground, environmental health got involved, et cetera, et cetera. As a result of all of this, I brought to the council, I think it was meeting before last, the different things that they were not in compliance with on the new ordinance, and I was instructed to turn it over to code enforcement, which I did. I had a detailed outline of each individual item that they were not in compliance with. And here we are today. We've been threatened to be sued. We have been sued numerous times. We've been threatened, so, I mean, here we are today.
Okay. Any questions at this time? Well, that'll come in there. No. You guys can, when you present your rebuttal, well, I don't know, I guess if you're asking, if you have a question rather than a restatement, then that would, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that be allowed. Instead of a question rather than a statement.
Oh, and my question was, I was just gonna wonder.
If you'll identify.
I was wondering if I could just take the podium.
Well, that, you can do that, again, I've said this several times, and it's really true. I don't know anyone in this room other than Stu. So I am assuming you are the other owner of the collective, yes, collective, okay. If you have something to say, then you guys have like 2 more opportunities to
Okay.
talk, and you can certainly come up and make a statement. I thought you had a question.
Oh, no, I was wondering if I can.
Okay, no problem. So you said what now?
If I can make a statement or?
You can
Okay.
in a minute when,
Okay.
when she
Alright.
sits down and you guys have another opportunity here. You absolutely can. Okay. So the next item, Mr. Chair.
Yes. I'm sorry, did you say that you're gonna allow rebuttals to
Yes,
statements?
absolutely.
So I could do a rebuttal to a
Absolutely.
statement?
Yes, absolutely. It's coming up. Trust me, I'm listening to it. I mean, everyone gets their due process. That's why it's set up this way. The next item would be a presentation by any affected parties, and that would be people who are, affected in a way that they're adjacent, property owners or other business owners in the town who would be affected by the decision made here today. Are there any affected parties here today? Yes, sir. Okay. So if you have something you'd like to say, then if you'll approach the podium, state your name, I will swear you in, and then you can make your presentation.
Lonnie Harrell.
Lonnie Harrell. Mr. Harrell, you swear affirm testimony you give before the board or council, I keep saying do it, will be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Carry on.
So, I'm a Fort White resident. Me and my wife own property about a block away from the collective. And I just want to say that I have never been negatively affected by the collective. I feel like the collective provides a valued service to the community. I feel like the collective owners have given back to the community. I feel like they're trying to be an integral part of this community. And I feel like the fact that they came in and started this venture before there was an ordinance prohibiting it, it means that they are not doing anything wrong. And in my opinion, as a resident who will be affected by this decision, they should have been grandfathered in. Because if it wasn't prohibited when they started doing it, then there was no rule saying that they couldn't do it. This is a free country. These people bought that property. They came in and they started doing something good. This board talks about growth and all this stuff. They wanted, community redevelopment and Main Street and all this stuff. But these are individuals coming in our community and trying to do that on a smaller scale, and we can't even work with these people. I feel like the board has failed us, the citizens of Fort White, because there was a breakdown in the process, which is what led us to where we're at today. People come in and they just say, okay, it's a free country. We're gonna go in there and buy property and I'm gonna do what I want to with it. If there's no laws prohibiting you from doing that, then whatever you do with that property is your business. If there was no laws or ordinances established to address what they were doing at the time that they did it, they should have been grandfathered in. Now, I'm not saying that both sides did everything perfect, and I'm not saying that both sides did the wrong thing, but I'm saying that this shouldn't be where it's at today. Because if this business, if these people are run off because of this, it will negatively affect the citizens of Fort White. Now, I have only been over there myself personally once or twice, and I don't even think I've ever been introduced to them face to face. But my wife's been over there a bunch, my stepdaughter. I've eaten food from there many times. My wife's went over there and got it and brought it home. I live a block away. Music I've never heard it. So, obviously, they're doing it tastefully or tactfully. So, you know, I don't know why somebody hasn't tried to have a meeting with a mediator or something. Let's just all sit down and let's just talk. You know, I don't know why it has to be like a Gestapo type process, you know? And I definitely don't support holding up progress while we, you know, drag our feet and make a rule. I mean, I don't know. I know Mr. Gooden's a business owner. If he wanted to start a business and there was no rule saying you can't, you know, log, then you just start logging. But if somebody come in and said, you know, we don't have a rule to address that, so we're gonna hold you up until we make one, you know, I don't know. But all I can say is they've added a service to the community. They've added other options for food. They've made a venue for people to go socialize. They've provided things to the community during times of need. And I don't think they're bad people. Now, they may have made some mistakes, but I don't think we need to take them out back. I ain't gonna know for it. That's all I have to say.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask it? Are
Yes, sir.
you under the impression we're trying to shut them down?
Yes.
Are you under that impression? I'm asking.
I'm under the impression that the board is not working with them in a way that is conducive to progress.
Okay.
Or, I don't even want to say the board, I'll say the town, the entity. So I don't know where the blame lies,
Okay.
but it lies with this governmental agency.
All right.
Any questions? Anybody?
Are there any other affected parties? Again, there'll be a time for just general public comment, but anyone affected by this decision that hasn't spoken? Okay, if not, we'll move on to rebuttal by the applicant. This would be the time you guys want to come up and make a statement or rebut anything that's been said prior to. Again, if you'll state your name and I'll call you.
My name is Ruben, I'm co-owner of the collective.
Ruben?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Ruben Loriano.
Loriano, okay, I swear you. Yes, sir. You swear from testimony you give to this council.
Yes, sir. We spent the last year coming in and out, we've been working back and forth. I was under the impression that once this ordinance passed, we were gonna be looking at something fair, and instead, we realized that we were looking at a $35,000 to $40,000 investment. At the last meeting, Ms. Connie, the clerk, stated that we could have asked for a variance to go ahead and make that septic for 4. We could not. And I have an email proof from the Department of Health stating that our current septic was not large enough for 4. Therefore, we could only ask for 2. And that was with us putting a large grease interceptor in. So we could not have made this for 4 by just paying the $200 fee as stated at the last meeting. Also, at the last meeting, the reason why I think this escalated to what it got to was because the clerk advised you guys that we came in here screaming and shouting. And we were not even present to go ahead and have a conversation with you guys because we were not on the agenda. We thought, man, finally, first time we're on the agenda, let's take this break. But in watching the video, we came to find that, you know, there was a discussion about police being called, and it just got really, it got wild. And that's what escalated this whole entire thing. We did not come in here screaming. We did not come in here shouting. We asked for a public records request of that recording of the interaction, and we were told that your internet was down during that time that we were here in the office. So we could not even get a recording or a video. We have the recording. We've been told that we cannot share it or provide it, that's fine. And once again, we were never against regulation. I want to remind you guys that we put in this grease interceptor and we went ahead and became a commissary for our trucks before that ordinance was passed. We had already gone ahead and done what we had to do ahead of time, ahead of the ordinance. And we were never instructed we had to do that, and we went ahead and we did it. Because we're respectful, we're responsible, we knew it was the best thing to do to avoid situations like what Ms. Connie mentioned regarding the water. But again, I'm not against regulation. This vesting, hearing, if you don't want to vest us completely, that's okay. But I ask that you at least vest us in regards to that septic. Because if we cannot be vested for that septic, I cannot afford $35,000 to go ahead and continue keeping the food truck vendors I have. And so I will have to let 2 of my vendors go. And that stresses me and it saddens me because I've watched these vendors create a really good life for themselves. And their businesses are flourishing in a time when many small businesses are not. And so for me to have to take that away from 2 vendors just doesn't make sense, especially since I was developing way before this ordinance came. So I just want to put that out there. And again, you know, I've had all day with vendors stressed. One of them came in here to talk with Connie, and I don't think that's necessary. I don't think any of that was necessary. And again, I cannot have the septic for 4 trucks. That was not a true statement. All right, guys. Any questions?
Okay, I do want to make the collective aware that in the order of proceeding, this would be the last time that the collective would have anything to present. Following this part of the proceeding, we're going to have rebuttal by staff, and then rebuttal by affected parties, public input, and then the deliberation and vote. So if there's anything that the collective has not presented or said at all to this point that you think that the council needs to hear and make a decision, I would encourage you to do that now. I didn't want you to lose sight of this, long order of proceeding and feel like that you have not been able to get out everything you need to say. So if you have something else you want to present or say, let's go ahead and do that now. Mr. Vega, you've already been announced and sworn in. Just for the record, that's Mr. Vega back up at the test.
Okay, so I went ahead and presented all the paperwork that I had on this matter. I went ahead and included several emails there from different parties who have been called on us for from environmental health, as far as the bathroom goes, the septic tank and all that goes. Your ordinance also states that the food truck will be limited to 4 trucks as approved or determined by the Columbia County Fire Department. That's an untrue statement. I have an email in that packet from the chief fire marshal stating that he never gave the council that number of 4 trucks. However, he did inspect and did say that they were in compliance with all fire and safety code. But these are the things that we kind of been going back and forth. Where are you guys getting these numbers from? Where are you guys pulling these from? And I'm just getting crickets and I'm not getting no answer. And even here today, I'm asking you for any questions and rebuttal and I'm not getting anything again. So we're gonna close this thing. I'm gonna sit back down. You're gonna have a deliberation and I don't wanna interject and tell you, okay, no, this is the time to ask the questions that you have. I mean, a little late now, we should have been doing this months ago. But like I said, all the emails that I have back and forth there with Jeff Crawford, with, I even had Kyle Roberts, did he call in today and speak with you?
He did.
He did. So I have an email from him as well as to what Ruben was saying, that we were not, even if we would have applied for a variance for 4 trucks, the size of our current septic wouldn't have allowed it. So we would have most likely not been approved for a variance for 4 food trucks based on what we had right now. And then we couldn't use this, we would have to upgrade to nitrogen reducing septic. Now, again, like we said, $35,000. And when sewer gets here in a few months or 18 months or whatever it's gonna be, we are on that list there. And I know she's gonna say that, no, well, it's tentative, it's gonna change. The fact of the matter is that the sewer is coming, and that's $35,000 that I'll be just throwing away. Because I have to mandatory connect into that sewer. Florida Administrative Codes says that every food truck needs to go to a commissary to empty out their water. The fact that I have something there, that's just a plus. That's because we had an incident and we decided, well, what can we do to prevent that incident from happening again? So we did that, not because you guys told us to do that. But that was the right thing to do, we did do that. The Florida Administrative Code says that every food truck must go to their approved commissary. That's how they're licensed.
Question? Okay, the next item is the level by staff.
Two things. I used the vernacular that they came in yelling or screaming at me. That was a terminology that I chose because they were being very confrontational. Did they literally scream at me? No, but they were very confrontational, demanding to know why I turned it over to code enforcement and didn't go and talk to them directly. That's what I meant, okay? I'm gonna clarify that. Did I elevate my voice or didn't they elevate their voices? No, but he was coming across the counter and going like this at me. Why didn't you come talk to us? You know, and I again told them, we were told by our attorney not to, that we needed to deal with through our attorney and then code enforcement. Okay? Second thing, I did talk to environmental health. The man at environmental health, his name is Kyle, he called me in today to reiterate our conversation and make sure that he and I understood each other. We understood each other perfectly. I told him what he told me the first time I talked to him, and that was they only applied for 2. He said, now, I don't know if they would have been approved for 4 or not. It was very iffy. He said, but they only asked for 2 when they applied. That is what I reported to the town council. If you recall, they came in and were asking, Ruben made the comment in a meeting that we'll just go ahead and put in a septic tank system. And I believe the mayor said that's a great idea. And so that is what precipitated the inclusion of the septic tank requirement in the ordinance. Do you remember? Okay. Okay. That's where the ordinance got put in at the 4. As far as the fire department goes, I conferred with you, Lindsay, about the letter from the fire chief. That's what his intent was, that they were approved for 4 trucks. Yeah. The fact that he didn't say they were approved for 4 trucks, that's what we gleaned out of his response, was that they were approved for 4 trucks. You're shaking your head. I relied on our attorney's
The email's there. You guys can see her email.
I relied on our attorney's opinion. I asked him if that was sufficient to approve you for 4 food trucks. That's what he said. We did that because we had such pushback when we said we took the feeling from the surrounding communities. Most of them said 2 per half acre. We initially had that, you all pushed back. We went ahead and we modified it for 4 if the fire department approved it, which they did. So we've tried to work.
I think that came about, can I speak? Okay. I think that came about because we did say 2 at first.
Yes, we
and
did.
then they got a pushback, they said, no, we gotta have 4.
Right.
So that's probably where the 4 number comes from.
And we went to the fire department and we asked them to go
And they go out
and
and
look and
inspect.
inspect.
Yeah.
And we made that a part of the ordinance, that said it had to be determined by the Columbia County Fire Department.
That's right.
Okay?
And so did the fire department approve it?
They did.
Yes.
They did approve it for. That's where the 4 number comes from, where they said they couldn't do it 2, they needed 4.
Right.
That's where the whole 4 thing came. Okay.
That is correct, okay? And if you will recall, not at the last meeting, I believe it was the meeting prior to, you all were entertaining the idea of perhaps doing some sort of a variance for that septic
For the septic.
until it got such to the point that they were threatening lawsuits and this kind of stuff, and so we just backed off and we said no. Do you recall that? Okay. Therefore, we have tried to work with the collective. Nobody wants to shut them down. If we wanted to shut them down, we could have done it a long time ago when we caught them dumping on the ground, number one. Number two, we never had a special use permit approved for to operate a commercial business within 100 feet of a residential area. But I want to make this one point, and that is this. If you all approve the vesting tonight, they are not operating under the new ordinance, which would be 2401. But the old ordinance would then be in effect for them, because that old ordinance was in place prior to them going into business. That old ordinance would limit them to 1 food truck.
I'm sorry, that old ordinance does not specify a amount of food trucks listed.
So, I'm just,
Right, are you
Yes,
done?
yes.
Okay. Well, say that, please. Does the council have any questions for Ms. Carter?
I got a question about septic, I don't know who to ask.
Well, ask Ms. Carter. Did she?
Yeah. We'll go from there.
Now that they've found out the system costs so much, and it will be in a few years, null and void,
that is true.
is there something we can do about it and keep our ordinance? Or
We
do we have
had,
to amend our ordinance, or?
we had attempted to do that night. You
I understand
remember?
we did, I
Okay.
was for that,
Yes.
I'm talking about now.
What we would have to do would be in a development order or under the special use permit, that still needs to be done, etc. There could be in the development order a clause stipulating that, something to the effect that 2 of the trucks, I don't know if they're, I think one of the ladies has a trailer and she leaves and takes it with her and goes to a commissary and dumps. If we have proof of that of some sort, the other one, I don't know anything about the other one. So the gentleman from the Environmental Health Department called me today and told me that he did go do an inspection and he did see where 2 of the 4 were hooked up to the sewer. So we would,
The two big trucks, the white
Yes.
truck and the kitchen, the blue.
and the blue truck.
That's a question, not a statement.
The ones they own.
Yes. Well, they don't, I don't know, you don't own the white one, do you?
No. But I don't understand what it means that where 2 of them are hooked up to the system, none of them are hooked up.
Are those going
Well, you're
to the
utilizing
sewer?
the septic
Yes, 2
system.
are using it,
2 of them.
and the other 2 are going
Are
to the
going to the
commissary.
commissary,
That's
that
how
is
they're
correct.
licensed.
That's what
That's
she,
correct.
that's what she
Yeah.
just said.
Yeah, I just
Yes.
didn't mean, I didn't understand the term of being hooked up to the system.
I was just trying to validate that because,
Yeah.
2 meetings ago, we had the same conversation and y'all were involved in having Crazy Wings and Boondogs
Correct.
go to a commissary and keep a log until whoever was in charge of planning overall could see if it was okay that y'all not have 4 on the septic until the true sewage came through. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
Because that was in the meeting here 2 months ago.
Yes. And I sent an
I
email.
left that meeting under the understanding that, okay, these guys can use the 2 larger trucks on the septic with the grease interceptor, and the other 2 would go to a commissary, which is kind of customary of mobile trailer units anyway.
Yes.
That's a question rather than a statement. And I'm
Correct.
looking at y'all for the answers. So I'm kind of confused on that. And I'm confused on how much can I say about the collective in general without going into this lawsuit issue and whatnot.
Well, you certainly have a time coming up on the order of proceedings for the council to deliberate, over the vesting application. I'm gonna advise that we don't talk about the lawsuit. The lawsuit contains many issues that are not relevant to the vesting issue.
Okay.
And one can stand alone separate from the other. And so my advice is gonna be to let the lawsuit proceed on its own merits, one way or the other. We're here to talk about this vesting, issue that they've made an application for, and they have due process rights to have this hearing, so we're having it. Even though it is in the midst of a lawsuit that seems to overlap, it doesn't in many respects, and to some degree, that just creates the position that we're talking about, something that's also taking place over here in a lawsuit. So yeah, you'll have plenty of time to do that during your deliberations. Certainly, if you have any questions for Ms. Connie, or anyone at this point, this would be the time for everything to ask.
I
Especially,
do have another question. Because one of the gentlemen said something about a partial, now I lost the word, investment, the investment partially. I don't know if that's an option, but I know, and we had in this meeting, this room, several meetings ago, how the food park there was never a food park in Fort White, so all of this is new. So some of these laws that we've passed or proposed to pass were not in place, and so they were clueless to it.
Which ones would those be though?
I lost my train of thought because I had.
Let me ask you a question though.
So the main
Am I out of turn
complaints-
here?
no,
Can we ask
no,
you?
this is the time to talk to us.
And I guess the question more directed towards you, because if she's correct about saying that if they are vested, they go back to the original ordinance.
No, right now. Oh, if they are vested.
So if we vest them, they go back to our original order that was in place. Do they
To
really,
the
want,
extent
they
it
really
applies-
want to be invested?
to the extent it applies to their particular business, they would. Because they wouldn't,
So
the
about
new
food
ordinance
truck.
wouldn't apply to them, it would apply to any future food truck parks.
So I guess my question before we continue through this proceedings, do they really want to be vested?
That's their question.
That
That's what I'm
ordinance-
asking. I mean, that's a pretty powerful question. Because
And
it
that
goes
ordinance
back-
also states that music is not allowed within 500 feet of a neighborhood.
Right. And, well, I'm not in.
I think I understand that
So-
the distinction that you're raising is to the extent that, the old ordinance would apply to, the collective,
Right.
they would be subject to it.
Yes.
I don't know, it's not been discussed, and again, I'm just facilitating this hearing,
Right.
is,
But if you originally invest yourself under the old ordinance, which was that ordinance, we're not gonna follow the
yeah,
new ordinance. we're gonna follow the old ordinance.
the vesting does not mean that you get to do particularly what you're doing now.
Right.
It would just mean you don't fall under the
new
ordinance.
ordinance. So
So-
essentially, you're gonna be,
And
you're gonna
again,
be.
that's a collective question, whether or not they're aware of that, understand that, and are asking to be held.
So that, my question is that, do they wanna really proceed through with this thing and get vested, because then they're gonna fall under the old ordinance?
I
But
think a straight shot would they be limited to one truck only? Because I certainly don't want to see that happen.
I don't know right this second what they will be limited to under the old ordinance. again, we're not here to talk about the old ordinance, and so I'm not, don't have it here, don't have, we're here to talk about the ordinance that is, passed by this council earlier this year, and their request, to be vested, in the rights and not have to be held by. So, again, that's,
That's a pretty powerful question.
it is a powerful question, but it's a
So
question
what
that-
you just said, you're right, it's behoove them to know what they're wanting to be invested in.
Absolutely, it's not my job.
Right,
to
right, I get
educate,
it, so
yeah,
that's,
and-
that's why I'm saying,
yeah.
they really wanna continue this hearing and be vested, if they do,
I thought we didn't have an ordinance for a food truck park.
you fell under the old ordinance. the
No, I
old
thought we didn't
food
have
truck.
one.
That ain't true,
Truck
truck
park.
ordinance. And the thing is, council and collective, is, I don't know, to what extent they would fall under the old ordinance.
Well, they just don't get vested and go back to just doing whatever the hell they wanna do, you know what I'm saying, so,
That is the way to put it.
yes. So that's what, they gotta fall under some
I
ordinance.
understand that.
So
And
that's,
it may be the food truck ordinance, it may be other ordinances or land development codes that exist within the town of
that's
Fort
what I'm
White.
saying, so they gotta
That-
be
that's-
careful what you're asking to be vested in.
Correct. Correct. I get that, that is a way to put it, yes.
Okay.
And some of that was what I was referring to as to how much can I talk about? Because this is a big umbrella that the whole thing falls under.